Japan has always been one of the most fascinating places in the world to visit. The neon streets of Tokyo, the quiet temples of Kyoto, the incredible food, the safety, and the culture draw millions of travelers every year. But for digital nomads, there was always one big problem. Japan simply wasn't built for remote workers. Most visas were designed for tourists, students, or corporate employees sponsored by Japanese companies. That meant freelancers, entrepreneurs, and remote employees working for foreign companies had almost no legal way to stay longer than a short tourist visit. But recently, that changed. Japan quietly introduced a brand new digital nomad visa designed specifically for remote professionals who want to live in the country while working online. At first glance, it sounds like the perfect opportunity. But here's the surprising part. Most people who hear about this visa assume they qualify, when in reality, many digital nomads are automatically excluded by the rules. Japan officially launched its digital nomad visa in 2024 as part of a new immigration category called designated activities. The goal was simple. Japan wanted to attract remote professionals who earn money overseas, but spend that income while living in Japan. On paper, the idea is appealing. The visa allows qualified remote workers to live in Japan for up to 6 months, while continuing their jobs for companies or clients based outside the country. During that time, digital nomads can explore Japan, work remotely, and experience everyday life in one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world. But it's important to understand that this visa is very different from traditional work visas. You cannot work for a Japanese company, and you cannot enter the local job market. Your income must come from abroad. Another key detail is that the digital nomad visa is not designed as a long-term residency program. It doesn't lead to permanent residence, and it isn't intended for people who want to immigrate permanently. Instead, Japan created this visa as a short-term lifestyle option for high-earning remote workers who simply want to spend several months living in the country while working online. One of the first surprises people discover when researching the visa is that not everyone in the world can apply. In fact, eligibility depends heavily on your passport. Japan limits the digital nomad visa to citizens of countries that already have both a visa-free travel agreement and a tax treaty with Japan. These agreements allow governments to coordinate taxation rules and reduce the risk of double taxation. Because of this requirement, the list of eligible countries is much smaller than many people expect. Citizens from places like the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, Singapore, South Korea, and most European Union countries are generally eligible. But large parts of the world are not included. For example, digital nomads from many developing countries, including some of the fastest-growing remote work markets, may not qualify at all simply because their governments do not have the required agreements with Japan. This rule alone automatically eliminates millions of potential applicants, and many people only discover this after they have already started planning their move. But even if your passport passes this first test, the next requirement is where the visa becomes far more difficult. The biggest barrier for most digital nomads is the income requirement. To qualify for Japan's digital nomad visa, applicants must prove they earn at least 10 million Japanese yen per year. Depending on exchange rates, that usually translates to roughly 65 to 70,000 US dollars annually. For experienced remote professionals, that number may sound reasonable. But for many freelancers, content creators, and early-stage entrepreneurs, it can be a major obstacle. Japanese immigration authorities want to see clear proof that your income is stable and reliable. This typically means providing tax returns, bank statements, employment contracts, or documentation, showing long-term freelance work with international clients. Savings alone usually will not be enough. The government wants evidence that you actively earn this level of income on a consistent basis. Freelancers may need to submit multiple client agreements or payment records to demonstrate that their income is ongoing rather than temporary. Remote employees working for overseas companies may also need official confirmation from their employer stating that they are allowed to work from Japan. This strict income requirement reflects Japan's overall strategy for the visa. The country is not trying to attract every digital nomad. Instead, it is targeting experienced professionals who are financially stable and capable of supporting themselves comfortably during their stay. Another important rule involves health insurance, and this is where some applicants make costly mistakes. Japan requires digital nomad visa holders to maintain private international health insurance with coverage of at least 10 million yen. This insurance has to remain valid for the entire duration of your stay in Japan. The policy must also cover major situations such as illness, injury, hospitalization, and repatriation if necessary. For applicants traveling with family members, the requirement extends to spouses and children as well. Each person must have adequate coverage that meets the government's standards. While this might sound straightforward, problems can arise because not every international insurance plan meets Japan's specific requirements. Some travel insurance policies only provide short-term emergency coverage rather than full medical protection. Others may not clearly state the coverage limits required by immigration officials. Because of this, applicants often need to carefully review the details of their insurance policy before submitting their application. It may seem like a small detail, but inadequate insurance documentation can delay or even derail an otherwise strong visa application. The digital nomad visa is built around one simple principle. Your work must remain completely outside Japan's domestic economy. This means you can work remotely for a foreign company, run an online business registered overseas, or provide freelance services to clients based in other countries. All of these situations are generally acceptable under the visa. However, taking jobs from Japanese companies or clients is not allowed. Even short-term freelance projects with local businesses could violate the conditions of the visa. The reason behind this rule is straightforward. Japan wants digital nomads to bring foreign income into the country while spending money on housing, food, travel, and local services. But the government does not want remote workers competing with local professionals in Japan's job market. For most digital nomads, this restriction will not cause major problems. After all, the entire idea behind remote work is the ability to earn money from anywhere. But it does mean your business or employment must remain firmly connected to markets outside Japan. One of the biggest limitations of Japan's digital nomad visa is the length of stay. Unlike many other countries that offer 1-year or even 2-year digital nomad visas, Japan's version only allows a maximum stay of 6 months. At first, that may still sound like plenty of time. 6 months is long enough to experience daily life in Japan, explore different cities, and settle into a routine while working remotely. However, there is an important catch. The visa generally cannot be extended beyond that initial period. Once the 6 months are finished, visa holders are expected to leave the country. For digital nomads hoping to build a long-term base in Japan, this can be disappointing. It means the program functions more like an extended temporary stay rather than a pathway toward permanent living arrangements. Still, for remote workers who simply want to experience Japan for a season while continuing their careers online, 6 months can offer a unique opportunity to live in the country legally. Beyond the income requirement and time limit, there are several practical challenges that many digital nomads only discover after arriving in Japan. Because the digital nomad visa is considered a short-term status rather than full residency, some administrative systems in Japan may not treat visa holders the same way as long-term residents. For example, opening a traditional Japanese bank account can be difficult without a residence card or long-term registration. Some landlords may also hesitate to offer standard apartment leases to foreigners staying only a few months. As a result, many digital nomads rely on short-term housing options such as serviced apartments, extended stay hotels, or furnished rentals designed specifically for international visitors. These options are convenient, but they can sometimes cost more than local long-term housing contracts. Another limitation involves certain everyday services that typically require official residency registration. While most basic activities like transportation, shopping, and dining are completely accessible, some bureaucratic processes may be more complicated for temporary visa holders. None of these issues make living in Japan impossible, but they are important realities to understand before making plans. Knowing these limitations ahead of time can help digital nomads avoid unexpected frustrations once they arrive. Given all these strict requirements, some people wonder why Japan introduced the digital nomad visa at all. The answer lies in the country's long-term economic strategy. Japan has one of the world's largest tourism industries, and the government has been searching for ways to attract visitors who stay longer and spend more money locally. Remote professionals fit that description perfectly. Unlike traditional tourists who visit for a week or two, digital nomads may remain in the country for months. During that time, they rent housing, eat at restaurants, explore different regions, and contribute to the local economy. By targeting high-earning remote workers, Japan hopes to attract individuals who will spend significantly while living in the country without competing for domestic jobs. This strategy also helps promote Japan internationally as a modern destination for global professionals. As remote work continues expanding around the world, more governments are experimenting with similar programs to attract mobile talent. Japan's version may be stricter than most, but it reflects a carefully controlled approach to welcoming digital nomads. For those who meet all the requirements, the application process for Japan's digital nomad visa is relatively straightforward, though it still requires careful preparation. The first step is gathering the necessary documents. This usually includes a valid passport, proof of income that demonstrates you meet the 10 million yen annual threshold, and documentation showing that your work or business operates outside Japan. Applicants must also submit evidence of international health insurance coverage that satisfies the government's minimum protection requirements. Depending on the situation, additional materials such as employment letters, client contracts, or financial records may also be requested. In some cases, applicants may apply for a certificate of eligibility before submitting the final visa application at a Japanese embassy or consulate. This certificate confirms that immigration authorities have reviewed the documents and determined that the applicant meets the necessary criteria. Processing times can vary depending on the embassy and the complexity of the application. Some cases may be reviewed within a few weeks, while others could take longer if additional verification is required. Once approved, the visa allows digital nomads to enter Japan and begin their temporary stay, while continuing to work remotely for overseas employers or clients. Japan's digital nomad visa offers a rare opportunity to experience one of the world's most fascinating countries while continuing a remote career. But as appealing as it sounds, the program is clearly designed for a very specific type of professional. Between the passport restrictions, the income threshold, the insurance requirement, and the 6-month limit, many remote workers will discover they do not qualify. For those who do meet the criteria, however, the reward can be extraordinary. Living in Japan while working online is an experience few people ever get the chance to try. The real question is simple: do you qualify?